Well, happy Monday. We are in the 2020 Jaguar I-PACE HSE 400. And the 400 is basically a round number for 396 horsepower. This is actually an all-wheel drive SUV, and it has air suspension, it has different drive modes, it has hill descent control, and basically an off-road style cruise control. It's an electronic gear selection, and all the tech you saw in the XE, haptic feedback on the knob here for temperature, and you can actually change the heating and cooling of the seats, which is really cool, and pun intended. And then we have a center display here with a map, and we can change that to the different gauges by using this menu here. And overall, what you probably didn't know is that this is an all-electric vehicle. This is my first experience in an electric vehicle, and it's quite astonishing to have that experience in a Jaguar I-PACE. And I say that because some people may go, well, what about the Tesla? Well, Tesla doesn't do press cars. Tesla only gives cars to influencers. And Jaguar lent me this car for a week, and I can say this is an excellent car. And it's kind of funny when you think about it, because I've got radar cruise and stuff, but I prefer to drive actually with the pedal down there. And the accelerator is also a brake in a sense. There is a brake pedal, but we have regenerative braking on here, and it basically uses the electronic motors to slow the car down, and it will take it down to a relative stop. So I never actually have to go left foot, right foot on brake, gas, or accelerator in this case, because there's no gas. But essentially I'm driving this car with ease in stop and go traffic because I don't have to go back and forth on the pedals. And that's a unique experience to electric vehicles. They pretty much all do that. Some have different settings, and there are settings in this vehicle that I can do to reduce the amount of regenerative braking if I went into the menu here. But I want to talk about this car in general because I am in an electric Jag. This is an all-electric Jag, and we know the whole history behind, the joke being that if Lucas made refrigerators, they would all the beer. That's why all the beer is warm. I don't know. I totally hacked that one up. But moving on here, I'm just stunned that I'm driving an electric Jag, because Tata is an Indian-based company, and they own Jaguar, Land Rover, and they've done a lot to improve this vehicle. They've basically engineered the Ford out of the car, and they've made this their own deal. And this is a really, really good car. And with 400 horsepower essentially on tap, and without a transmission getting in the way, you are able to maneuver in stop and go traffic like that. I can't really show it because there's someone in my blind spot and there's nowhere to go to. But if you were to put your foot down in this car to change lanes, there's no delay. There's no downshift. I'll show you right here. Hopefully, nope, there's no gap. I can't take that gap. Damn it. Well, when there is a gap, I'll show it to you. We'll just have to here we go. Ready? Down. That was fun. So this car is really cool at maneuvering around traffic like this, in this way, which is why I had to wait till rush hour to shoot this for you. And my gimbal's at home, so I'm holding this camera by hand. Hopefully you don't mind the shakiness of it. This is on 22-inch wheels. It's the HSE, so it's fully loaded. Look at the interior here. Looks great. We also have the glass roof. There's no shade for that roof, but essentially it doesn't open, and that's kind of the only downside to this car is climate control in these vehicles. When I read the manual, climate control actually consumes a lot of energy in electric vehicles, and they prefer you to use the heated and cooled seats first before actually trying to use climate to cool down the car or warm it up in the winter. Another thing too is you can precondition the car with the app and a setting inside the vehicle, but I'm in a weird situation with this car because when they dropped it off, I said, hey, I live in a condo, and where I live, we don't even have power at the parking spaces, so I can't park this thing overnight. But I'll still take this thing on as a challenge. I wanted to know if you're poor like me, can you live with an electric car without charging it at home? And so I did a video, and there's a part 1 up there right now, and I'm working on part 2. But I'm trying to explain, have electric cars only been made for the rich? I mean, granted, this is an $80,000 plus car, but it is loaded. But Teslas aren't cheap. Even the Chevy Bolt isn't cheap when you think about what you're getting for what you're paying. But you look here in this Jag, this is a Jag. This isn't some tarted up version of a car that was never meant to be all electric. And we're driving something that's super quiet, super fun, and super luxurious. I mean, the seats in here are comfortable. They're 16-way power seats. They have bolsters that come in and out. The leather is phenomenal. Everything in here is top notch. It's basically what you'd expect in a Jag, and it has all the latest tech. This is an incredible setup in this car, and essentially what it does is it makes driving in this kind of traffic an actual enjoyable and pleasant experience. And when you want to open it up, you can do that just fine. Right now I'm actually in eco mode, so when you saw me dart in and out of traffic, that was in eco mode. All I have to do though is put this into dynamic mode right here, and you'll see the gauges go red, and now dynamic mode is confirmed, and now the way the pedal responds to input, it's instantaneous. So I'm gonna just go ahead and go in this gap here, change lanes into there, and then go for it. 99 miles an hour. So there's no drama, and of course we are consuming power doing that, but it sounds like something out of Star Wars. It sounds like something totally futuristic. And even though I've had my concerns about being able to charge a car without charging it at home, I do have a lot of fun in this car. I had a Prius the same week as this car, and obviously I drove this Jag a lot more than that Prius. Unfortunately, though, I've only put, as you can see there, 187 miles on the car, and my range on this, well, I don't want to call it a tank, but on this charge is 139 miles. And I have to say, like, if you've never owned an electric car, or if you hear about them, or your friends have Teslas, like, don't talk to anyone who owns a Tesla, because they are hardcore fanboys, and that's very, very biased, and they all get into a circle together, and they do confirmation bias together, because that's what Tesla people do. When it comes to just electric vehicles in general, the hardest part is figuring out how to live life without the car determining how you're going to live your life. So I'm going to have some part 2 video, maybe a part 3 video on electric cars and charging, and this weird multitasking effect that goes on in your life when you're trying to stay busy, even though you got to kill like 30 minutes. But in the end, cost is my biggest concern. So I drove what did I drive? I drove an F-PACE SVR 2 weeks before this, and that thing had a 550 horsepower supercharged V8. It was nice and loud, and it was like $88,000. So it's almost the same price as this car, and this car has a little less horsepower, but this car is actually a lot quieter because there's no exhaust, obviously. And this car is also a little bit faster in 0 to 60, which is hard to believe, but it's just by a tick. So it's not that bad of a vehicle in here, although some people would just immediately love or hate electric vehicles. When I get to a park near my house, I'll go ahead and show you what this thing looks like on the outside, but still I'll talk you through some of these features. We have fully extended leather in here, very soft, very supple leather. It's almost the best leather I've felt in a new vehicle this year. A Meridian surround system, which sounds pretty good in here. It's got different sound settings. It's the same system you'd find in the F-PACE SVR. We have little details in here like this little tag, same thing they had in the XE. It's kind of a mess in here today because I've been basically working out of my car. We have USB ports here, although there is no USB-C, which is kind of shocking. There's more USB right in there. If my camera, adjust the light. There's one on the passenger side as well. And it's a very simple layout. I mean, with the exception of the buttons down there, there are like really no buttons to fuss with to control like the HVAC and stuff. I've talked about this in the XE. We have different ways to get around here on this lower screen. This pretty much has like everything you'd expect an $80,000 car to have. It's kind of a funky experience when you drive an electric car for the first time. But I will honestly say I'm going to miss this car. I won't miss the experience of having to charge and sort of like the range anxiety. And it does turn heads because it's a crazy blue. And it has awesome 22-inch wheels and an air suspension. It moves. I can't even hold the camera properly. There's a lot of power in this thing. It moves, and it provides a fun experience. And it's a little different from that F-PACE SVR because it's not really grabbing too much attention because it's just silently doing all these things. You hear a bit of a hum in dynamic mode. It's some sort of I would say, piped-in sound. It's a wicked little noise. It doesn't annoy at all. But from the Jag perspective, this is 100% Jaguar, and I really commend Tata for the work they've put into this car because it is an incredible experience. I can't really nail it down. The batteries are below the floor, and they're between the wheels. And if I go ahead and show you that, I'll go here, and I can show you some of the screens here. My EV, for instance. On the My EV screen, you get to see the charge of the vehicle, and you can see it in one of two fashions. You can see the vehicle as a whole, and then you can see the battery under the floor there. And you can see where it's routing the power, and basically I can go to another mode here. There's a low power mode, which is like hopes and prayers or whatever you want to say, and we're not going to do that right now. Let's go to where I was, Eco Data. And this is where it makes no sense to me because what do I really care? Average 19 miles an hour, 381 watts per mile. So depending on where you live, you're going to have different electricity rates, and depending on the charging stations you use, there are different rates. And I'm probably going to use another video to break all that down because I don't want to bore you with the costs and all that crap. All I do want to say is I would buy an electric vehicle for the power, the way it puts the power down, and the fun I have doing it. So with 400 horsepower, you still can't break. The tire is loose in here, although I haven't really tried it with traction off. But this car just has a way to move. It just glides. But it also grips with these 22-inch Pirelli wheels. They're P0s, and they have the PCNS system, which is PNCS, which is Pirelli Noise Cancellation System. So let's see. Go. Oh. It has an ability to keep going, as you put your foot in it. And when you do, you don't really see your battery needle dip down real quick. Of course, this is my first electric vehicle experience, but from what I'm used to seeing in my phone, for instance, if I was to use anything on my phone that consumes any bit of power, the battery just immediately depletes. So here in this car, I've been driving it for a week, doing all sorts of heavy load driving, and not necessarily from a perspective of scientifically testing it, but just from the purpose of having fun. And I'm not really paying a price normal from what the gauge is telling me. But let me go ahead and make a U-turn. Here's the street we're going to make a U-turn on. Definitely turns tight. Make that U-ey. Park it right here for a second. And now, I'll show you the outside. It shuts off automatically when I've put it in park. The suspension lowers to access height, and looks good in here. But here's some stunning stuff. These door handles, for instance, are flush to the vehicle, so when I lock it, they just disappear. That's really awesome. You can unlock the vehicle, door handles come back. The space in the back is very roomy. This is a good car to have. Whoops. There we go. Sorry about that. I have plenty of headroom in here. The seats are very supportive. I have a nice armrest with a little bit of a storage space in here to hide a phone if we're parked, stuff like that. You can get a 4-zone climate control, but in here I have rear heated seats, which is funny because to me, if you got the climate control, I think you would be consuming more power, I guess. So heated seats back here are great, and they're still perforated, so they're not going to be hot in the summer, you know, or sweaty from that perspective. These are optional accessories. You got your obviously your business person's coat hook, and then probably your handbag hook here. So I personally would probably swap these, but you know what I'm talking about. I'd rather have my coat on my side. Let's see. We have an alert here to let you know if it's safe to open the door from the back seat because you can't see who's coming. It's a great car, and they've engineered it basically for luxury and city use. The big question, though, is it really an SUV? Because you stand back and you look at it, and you go, yeah, that looks great, and it is a head turner, believe me, and it has a lot of cool elements to it. And you'll notice it doesn't have a rear wiper. And they say that's because the air flows over the vehicle and will wick away water, although you can tell, because it's been parked, this does get dirty, but you don't really see water spots on here, which is interesting. So what happens is the air comes in through the front, right here where the grill is, and it doesn't need a grill because it's not a motor, it's electric, but the air comes right through here, over the top of the hood. You can see straight through the ground there, right? And the air channels up and over the glass and through to the back. And we have a bit of a lip spoiler on here as well. And what this all does is it creates a quieter cabin, and you can see the sleek look of this thing. It is freaking awesome. I'm a big fan of that. Okay, let me open the trunk though, because the question is this an SUV? Well, look at that. Look at all that trunk space. If you saw my Prius Prime video that I published today as well, Prius Prime couldn't even hold 2 camping chairs and a sleeping bag. But here we can obviously throw in an ice chest, we can throw in a tent, a sleeping bag, pillows, and yeah, you could take this anywhere you want to go. Power trunk, of course. And you see the rear diffuser, no tailpipes obviously. And these are, let me go here, Pirelli P0 tires. And you'll see right there, Pirelli noise cancellation system, which means that inside the tire is basically like a foam backing, and it reduces the sound of the tires, I believe, by 6 decibels. The first car to feature Pirelli noise cancellation is the Audi RS7. These are great wheels too. But you'll see here, HSE designation and a good side profile. It's dirty. I keep it real here on New Car Spin. And I also really don't edit my videos. I just drive it for the week and tell you what I really think about it. Great, great car. The only downside is it's electric. And electric vehicles come with their caveats. Very comfortable seats. This is the extension of the squab, obviously up and down, front and back, and lumbar, and then this is the control for the bolsters. And then the headrests are also adjustable for height, and they don't come in and out like they would on like a German SUV. However, just getting in, let's put the array on there. It's a very nice cabin, and if I can roll the window down a little bit, you'll see it's double glazed glass. This is also what helps with keeping this thing very quiet. Whoa. Sorry about that. All right, so the Jag I-PACE only comes in 400 horsepower, so, or the 400 designation, so it's only in 396 horsepower all-wheel drive format, and there's very, very little bits amount of torque steer when you accelerate, but only when you're accelerating in dynamic mode and really hard. Everything else about this is 100% Jag, and I highly approve of it. So I would say, if you're going to buy an all-electric vehicle, this is the best electric car you can buy. And it's not because I haven't driven Teslas. It's because what you're getting is a Jag first, an electric car second. And for many people, electric cars aren't a priority. But if they are a priority, you're missing out by not looking at the I-PACE. There are a few things I would say, like I'd like to have a vented glass just to have air in here. These cars are so sealed that it feels like I need fresh air all the time. And there's a great climate system here with different settings. And under these different settings, I can tell you, you can change your airflow and air purification and everything in here. It's a loaded vehicle. I just have so many choices and so many things I can use in here. It's incredible because I'm not thrown over by gimmicks, and this car doesn't really have gimmicks. So there's the only real gimmick is right down in here. But once you get used to it and the speed of it, you're okay. Like I'd say it is slow, but it actually does show what your initial input was. So if you go here and you go 1, 2, 3, let's go like this. Go down to the seats. Up. There we go. Now we're in the normal screen. Oh, the car's not on. Duh. Okay, now we can turn the heated seats on. So now you can push down and turn on the heated seats. 1, 2, 3. There you go. If I go on cooled seats, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there is a tactile feeling to it, and it just doesn't seem to have like an immediate response, but it actually is doing what you tell it to do. Weirdly, you'll hear the clicks, right? But if I turn the car off, let me open the door. Okay, now the car's completely off. Come back in. I can turn this freely. So it's a haptic / tactile setup, which is interesting because in the future this could be used for more than just HVAC. It depends, I guess, on how people really adjust to it. I also would wish that this was reverse and this was drive, because in a normal car you'd go forward for reverse if you're in drive and back and forth, vice versa. So I do like the buttons. I'm also a fan of the knob for gear selections, but I think the way they've laid this out is a little backwards in my mind, especially when you're trying to make a U-turn or something or maneuver in parking lots. Although this can maneuver in parking lots for you. I've tried it in other vehicles, but you can do self parking systems, like where it will find the spot and try and get you in the spot and all that. But yeah, this is a great car. I highly recommend it. It's the best SUV I've driven that's all electric, and I'm going to put it on my best cars I've driven playlist because of that. So if you're new to my channel, please like, subscribe, and if you're used to watching my videos, thanks for watching, and be sure to leave a like, because my videos are only as good as your opinion. So leave a like or dislike, comment, let me know what you think. I would say that if you're looking for an SUV in the $80,000 range, even if you're not looking for all electric, this isn't even a hybrid. This is pure electric. And me having personally lived with this car for a week while owning a condo and not being able to charge this overnight, It never went flat on me. I never had an issue. I was able to find charging stations, and I found myself over the week going to charging stations that I had located and felt comfortable to use on a regular basis. But those will be different videos, so please go watch that. That's more of like an EV learning experience. And this is basically a video about the I-PACE. Great car. Body roll feels a little different to the F-PACE SVR, but it's because the weight here is down low between the wheels, and you have to control the cornering a little bit differently, but you feel body roll before you fully execute the turn. But it's the air suspension is doing a really good job. It's just that weight is always going to be there. So just like in a gas car, when you fill up the full tank of fuel, you feel a little difference in the vehicle. It might feel a little heavier. Well, when you fill up a full charge in your electric vehicle, you still have the same weight, whether the vehicle has 5 miles of range or 500 miles of range. The range in this is like 230, but I've only seen 200, and I've charged it, well, every day I've driven it, I've charged it, because I just never wanted to go below 70 miles. Well, they're going to pick this car up today, so thank you, Jag, for letting me drive this for the week. And I do like it a lot. I prefer the F-PACE SVR just a little bit more, because my taste is definitely geared towards the V8 and all the noise. But I'm sure in the future this is the way it's going to be. But I've had no issues in the all-electric Jag, and Tata has done a good job getting Ford out of the picture and BMW out of the picture as far as Land Rover, and it's a fantastic daily drivable SUV with an air suspension capable of going somewhat off-road. There's no low gearing in here, obviously, but yeah, good stuff. Thanks for watching.